Hey everyone, we're back for another episode. Welcome to Mode. I'm Beatrice Newman, founder of Mode, the online educational platform aimed at providing you with expert fashion knowledge in business, tech, and sustainability. I'm joined by my co-host, Peter John Hossain, founder and CEO of Beyond Form, a fashion tech venture studio. Say hey, Peter.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Beatrice again.
So let's get into it. Today, we're discussing the widely debated topic of fashion as art and how you can leverage your creativity in building brand awareness and products your customers will love. Authenticity really is the big word here. And we're going to start off with Colina Strada Fall 2023. I mean, what was the brand thinking, Peter?
I don't know, what were they thinking? For those of you that don't actually know what the fall, or for our UK listeners, autumn winter collection looks like, it was, these animal-like heads as on the models stylistically, but then on the clothing themselves, there was a lot of animal prints. There were animal kind of like references. They're very acid, bright green colors. It was a trip. There was a real narrative and a story surrounding, nature, animals, green, the whole thing, with that narrative. So obviously we're going to have some pictures on the screen right now, just to refresh your minds.
I mean, I tell you what I thought. I saw that on social media. I was like, oh my God. Because I was actually watching the show and, you've got models playing out creatures and stuff like that. I think if I was in the front row, I'd have been like, oh my God, what is going on here? As an academic, putting my academic hat on, I could just imagine the halls of students coming, back into my ear saying, but if Colina Strada could do it, like, I want to create art and this is what I'm going to do. And you're like, no, darling, there was a strategy or reason why Colina Strada did what she did, or did what they did, I'm sorry. And it was a moment, but there's still importance behind developing a product, right, Peter? I mean, I think she has a quote somewhere.
Fashion is a means of expressing one's personal style and artistic vision. However, creativity is subjective, and designers need to ensure that their products are not only artistically sound, but also meet the needs and desires of their target audience. Finding the right balance between creativity and commercial viability is crucial in developing human-centered fashion products. For more insights into determining the potential success of a fashion idea, check out our Intro to Fashion Entrepreneurship course. In relation to Colina Strada's Fall 2023 show, the designers say this as the reasoning behind their quirky spectacle. If you look at it very cynically, a runway show is a business opportunity to show yourself to the fashion elite, but that's incredibly boring and against the ethos of the brand. It's more interesting for us to provide a platform and let people we trust take that and run with it.
Absolutely. Like, if you just look at this particular look, if you break it down, take away the animal, prosthetics, take away all of the styling, they're actually wearable pieces. But the way the show was put together made you think.
Yeah. It did. And I was reading up a bit more about Colina Strada, the brand, and where they come from. And I think one of their main focus has been on building social community. But the other most important thing of their brand is sustainability. And here on an ID internet article, they're quoted as saying sustainability just has to be a main focus for us. It's such a huge part of our personal lives. Why would it not be an extension of what we do, Charlie says. So right now with consumerism and capitalism, it feels really selfish to make clothes in general. And Hillary adds, we want to try to consciously make product in the best way that we can. I think when you read or hear that quote, you begin to understand why they did a show like this, because when we talk about sustainability in fashion, it really does center around not just material, but the whole consumerist element of it, and the capitalism of really big players benefiting off designers' creativity. So I feel like this is a big up you to fashion in a way, while still being fashionable, I guess.
See, I like the messaging. I like the sentiment. Could it have actually been done more in a thoughtful way? Yes, in my personal opinion, what they presented and what they're saying are actually two different things. Unless you read that ID article and listen to them talk, there isn't necessarily that obvious linkage with socialism, capitalism, sustainability, unless you know all of that. It's not that obvious, actually. It's a lot more subtle than you think, versus, oh, here's a really quirky show.
I guess maybe at this juncture we can really talk about then, well, how have other brands done it so well? And I think you mentioned the Schiaparelli show, which probably did it a lot more better, or executed it a lot more better, do you think?
I don't think they necessarily executed it better. For those of you that don't know, Kylie Jenner obviously wore this lion head to the fashion show, the Couture Week in January 2023. And it was this black dress, this image on the screen now with the lion on it. And there was an uproar because a lot of spectators were saying, how can she wear a lion head, albeit a fake lion head? So let me just read here. It was made from foam, wool and silk faux fur, hand painted to look as lifelike as possible. Obviously, nobody's going to wear a real lion head, but just the discussion around, oh, she shouldn't be wearing it because, it promotes trophy animals, it promotes, consumerism and dead things. Okay, I get it. In my opinion, I thought it was very effective in getting that PR moment, shall we say, during Couture Week. Another outfit was Naomi Campbell wearing the wolf coat, which in my opinion was actually quite beautiful in itself as a piece. I think what was interesting was that the PETA, the organization that is all about animals, were actually not offended by this collection. If anything, it was a beautiful representation of the animals. And if you actually listen to, the designer Daniel Roseberry's quotes and what he was inspired from, it was nothing to do with what the people are actually saying. So I think sometimes there is a disconnect between the designer, the clothes that are presented, and then the perception of the audience. And I think it's a mixture of all of these things, which takes, from a business perspective, careful crafting. And I don't necessarily think Daniel had thought, or maybe he did, we don't know. Maybe that's what he wanted. But obviously the fact that Kylie was wearing it just perpetuated the whole conversation, shall we say.
I mean, what I'm hearing from this is there are some really unique pieces of clothing being designed by creative talents who have a deeper meaning and understanding to what they're trying to bring to their audience and also to their customers. However, sometimes the message just kind of goes way over your head, right? You miss it. And perhaps when I think sort of deeper into my psyche, I remember a show that will forever be embedded in my mind, and I guess across a lot of fashion creators who know of it, is the Alexander McQueen Highlands collection.
Yeah. The Alexander McQueen Highland Rape collection, which was presented in 1995, is considered iconic in the fashion world for its controversial and thought-provoking themes. The collection was inspired by the history of Scotland and specifically the country's tumultuous relationship with England. The collection's title itself, Highland Rape, was intended to be provocative and controversial, and it drew criticism from many quarters. Some saw the collection as a glorification of sexual violence, while others saw it as a commentary on the way in which Scotland had been subjugated by England. In terms of fashion as art, the Highland Rape collection is significant because it challenged the traditional boundaries of what was considered beautiful or acceptable in fashion. McQueen used raw, rough materials like tweed and tartan and incorporated elements like corsets and torn fabric to create a sense of violence and aggression. He also incorporated elements of traditional Scottish dress like kilts and sporran bags in unexpected and subversive ways. The Highland Rape collection was a masterclass in using fashion to make a statement and provoke a reaction. By pushing the boundaries of what was considered acceptable in fashion, McQueen sparked important discussions about the role of fashion in society and the relationship between fashion and art. The collection continues to be studied and referenced by fashion students and scholars today and is seen as a milestone in the evolution of fashion as a form of artistic expression.
I love this collection. It was just so, if you really want to make a point, this is, but to be honest, nobody can be as good at making points as Alexander. I don't think anyone has been able to reach the way he, I don't think so, do you?
I can't think of anything right now, but I wouldn't want to be like, there's a benchmark and you can't reach it.
No, of course, like you can reach it, but I think, Alexander McQueen was just so unique in his way about telling stories. And that's go back to my earlier point, heard, this collection by Colina Strada have been a little bit more intellectual in the way it was actually delivered.
That's understood. I mean, what comes to mind actually is another person who I have, based on my own issues of mentioning, but just for the sake of history, we should mention is John Galliano at Dior. I think he was also a really great storyteller. I don't know if you would agree.
Yeah, I love John's work.
Yeah. And I think it's because perhaps both John and Alexander McQueen were both convicted a lot by what they were trying to portray to their audience, and they weren't really fearful of the reaction. In fact, the reaction was the whole purpose of everything, and so they weren't scared of it. I'm wondering though, Peter, if in today's age we're trying to not put the foot to the pedal too harshly because we're worried that we could crash. And I think we have to be a lot more careful because there's just so much table manners, if you will, that we need to be considerate of. But way back when, you didn't need to worry about controversy because controversy was the whole point. But I'm wondering then is, if we sort of bring this back into why we've developed mode and really trying to help businesses move forward, is really understanding what your message is and building on that.
Well, I think it comes back down to your earlier point, authenticity, the key word here. But it's one thing to be authentic and just doing your own thing, which is pure art in itself, and being authentic, but then deliver it in a strategic business manner. I think those are two very different things. And obviously for both John and for Alexander McQueen, when they first started to in their careers, it was the former, where it was art and creativity, versus it being a strategic business decision. So I think this is where new design is now coming into the industry, really to find that balance. Unless, of course, your only objective is just to make art and get your point of view across and just say what you want, fine, fair enough. But if you want to make a business that speaks to many people and ultimately, of course, have sales, and I think it needs to be carefully crafted, especially in the era of the woke and cancel culture.
Absolutely. And I'm just sort of circling back then to the Colina Strada Fall 2023 collection, and sort of now having a bit more of an understanding and context behind it, looking at history and where we are now. I think whilst there would have been better ways for Colina Strada to potentially execute it based on our opinion, by the way, it's not necessarily the right opinion or the same opinion as everyone else. I think what we're seeing with all of these brands that we've mentioned, past and present, is that they are using fashion as a form of escapism. And I think the most important thing, again, just going back, is really understanding who you are as a designer and what is the message that you're trying to bring across to your audience. Start there and make sure then the product doesn't come sort of afterwards. It should be further developed with the product in creating what we call a fashionable moment, which is what I think, again, Schiaparelli probably did really well this season. And as you mentioned, Peter, seeing Naomi Campbell in that wolf coat, I mean, I die.
Yeah. If I was Naomi, I wish I was wearing it, to be honest. I'd love to wear it. But I think going back to that collection, I don't think it would have been as much of a talking point if Kylie wasn't wearing it.
You don't think so?
No, I think it's because she wore it to the show that there was, it was her brand that perpetuated a certain type of conversation versus it being a line headdress.
So perhaps we're seeing an elevation then in this day and age compared to Alexander McQueen, where we didn't necessarily have that strong celebrity influencer power then, but now that we do, it's probably Alexander McQueen 2.0 in how you develop hype, and Schiaparelli have done really well with that because they know how controversial the Kardashians and the Jenners can be. So putting it on one of them, I think, as you said, it becomes the love it, hate it sort of thing. But I think love it, hate it are one of the best conversations you can have in fashion, because at the end of the day, it gets people talking and it gets the point across, and I guess it also sells fashion. So
absolutely.
Win-win.
So on that note, by the way, listeners and viewers, we talked a lot about Alexander McQueen and Johnny Galliano in this episode. I love the book Gods and Kings by
Yes.
Donna Thomas that does highlight the rise and fall of these two brilliant designers. We're going to do a whole episode on this book, I think, later on, aren't we, Beatrice?
I think so.
I
Like,
think
I was,
so.
that book is amazing. I learned so much from it.
So check back on that book, basically, that book review, shall we say. It's almost like a little fashion book club.
Yeah. Oh my God, we should start one actually. I live for that.
Absolutely. I think we should also do A Beautiful Fall that talks about Karl Lagerfeld.
Yeah, and Yves Saint Laurent.
And also In Her Shoes by about Tamara Mellon, the founder of Jimmy Choo. I love the book Shoe Dog. That is kind of like one of my reference books. If you are an emerging designer slash business, just read that book. It's just so inspirational. Obviously, we all know Nike as the big brand. But anyway, that's a divergent. Back to you, Beatrice.
Okay. I think it sounds like we do really need to start this book club. But what we're going to do, listeners, is if we haven't already, put those books on the side so that you can see them. We'll put them in the description as well. They are really great investments. Some of you are probably thinking, I don't want to learn business, but these books, I feel like, make fashion business so much more inclusive and helps you to understand from a creative perspective how it really goes down, and you can learn so much more from it. And if you want to then understand further how you can implement that business strategy into your own brand or your own creative development, you should join up to Mode. So on that note, I want to say thank you for watching. We hope you gained some insight and valuable information. Leave a comment below, join in the conversation, and tell us what you think. To find out more about Mode, you can make sure you don't miss a beat. Hit the subscribe button below. And as I mentioned, if you are looking to gain further information and gain access to any of our courses so you can learn a little bit more about what we talk about today, then make sure you hit the link in our description. That's it from us today. We look forward to you joining us in the next video. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.